Hi there, I'm Matt Keene. Welcome to Creating a Future We Want, the Evaluative Evolution series. In the garden again today. The okra are doing well. It's the evening, so the flowers aren't visible at this point. They close. They just last the morning. One little okra sticking up in the corner. They just last the morning and close up. So I need to record one of these in the morning so we can all see the okra flowers. The queen of the garden. I was out here the other day with my little multi-tool slicing vines, like melon vines and other vines, pulling worms out of the middle of them. They get in there and they eat everything through the center of the vine. Eventually, well, bad things happen, and no one's happy except for that little caterpillar. Um, so I was doing that, and I was going down, getting down low to one, and trying to, you know, it's just endless. And my glasses fell off of my face, right down into the grass. Well, the caterpillars have an enormous advantage at that point when I don't have my glasses. Besides that, I had this crazy, insane, like I was looking at my glasses, sitting there in the grass at my feet, and this like flood of ideas and memories came into my consciousness. I had had a coffee recently, so it was, you know, you know, a little bit of, you know, losing impulsivity control in the frontal lobe, no doubt. But I recalled many things. I'm going to just mention a couple, right? A few. Couple implies two, more than two. A few things right here. Okay. My daughter's back there. They're hiding. And okay, so first, I recalled walking out of the office of a fellow named Andrew Light, very generous with his time that he gave me in his office of, like, I don't know where it was, like International Monetary Fund or some such DC place, probably more environmentally oriented, because he had just published a book called Environmental Values, and I was curious about it. I'd read about it, and I walked out of this office with this concept of the incommensurability of values, as in all values don't condense or originate from one, or at least that's the idea I came out of his office with, and talked about in their book. It's pretty intense, dense, thick, skinny but dense book. Anyways, important concept, it turns out, for like all of my thinking over the next 15 years or so, which is the case with each of these items that I'm about to mention. The next thing, I was reading something by Paul Cillier. When I'm reading things, sometimes, if it's a really good writer, I feel like they're talking to me. Well, so I often say, so I was chatting with Paul the other day. I was just reading one of his papers that 7 other people read. Probably hundreds or thousands, because good writer, very important, was at Stellenbosch University in South Africa. I believe he's passed away at this point, to our great loss, because he seemed to be a man of great wisdom. Well, he talked about the incompressibility of reality. Oh, it really stuck with me. The notion that, reality is what it is. If we start taking parts out of it, it is no longer that thing. We could go into this a great deal. I'm going to stop there. The next concept that came into my consciousness, maybe around that same year, was from if you're not familiar with the vast universe of systems thinking literature, and it was, I believe, his name is West Churchman, wrote something about the inevitable partiality of our perspective. The idea that if I'm looking at this, my perspective on it is inevitably partial. In other words, as I've mentioned at other times in other writings, like for instance, I have no idea, this is more than a teaspoon, but if it was a teaspoon of soil, that's a billion bacteria in my hand. I don't know what they are. That's just an example of that inevitable partiality. I'm not even perceiving much of reality. Probably I'm not perceiving most of reality. The next was the idea of the map and the territory. I wrote a evidently bad paper because it was rejected a few times and never published, about mapping human values. Still working with this concept. I realized why that writing was foolish at the time, or at least too ignorant at the time. I aim to correct that situation. And one of the reviewers said it reminded them of a short story by Borges, and this was 2008, 2009, and it was about a story where some folks got the notion they should make a map, and they wanted it to be more and more detailed, and so the map got bigger and bigger until the map was like the size of the entire nation that they were attempting to map. And over the years, of course, that's a lot of litter to clean up. This map, sun, wind, and rain, just a disaster. So that wasn't cool. But the idea there is, the map that we're looking at, whether now our map takes up, I guess literally in a sense, no space whatsoever, no physical space, but the map we're looking at is not the territory. In other words, it's only representing the stuff that someone has chosen to represent in the maps. And I read a bunch of books about all sorts of stuff, something called neo-cartography at the time. Stop there, move on. The map is not the territory. The model is not reality. Infinite games, Glenda Yang introduced me to this concept. We were playing phone tag, and she was like, this is a finite game once we connected, because the game is over. Phone tag, you win. Or we win. Phone tag, I'm not sure. Is there even a winner in phone tag? From now on, when I play, someone's winning, someone's a loser. Finite game. And she was like, this is different from infinite games. Infinite games like parenting, like, raising a child. Infinite games like life and living, like a marriage, partnership. These things don't have like a finish line. You're not trying to break the tape and it's over. Your time was 2:12. Awesome. I don't even know what race that would be. Maybe a good marathon. I used to run a sub 5-minute mile. Now I run no miles. So that was fun. Infinite games, finite games. Then the last thing, I was in garden 2014 or so, underneath the eggplant, side dressing, adding compost, nutrition. And I heard someone on the radio, podcast, whatever I was listening to, say something about the biggest problem with artificial intelligence, and they didn't say it like that at all. It was very scholarly, sounded like they were at Cambridge or Oxford or something. The biggest problem with artificial intelligence is human values. That is, we call it alignment, or the control problem. Like, how do we ensure that artificial intelligences, as AI systems, as they become more and more advanced, more and more powerful, how do we ensure that their actions are aligned with human values? I was like, holy moly, that's the problem with humans. Alignment. How do we ensure that human actions are aligned with human values? We're really not too great at that as it is. So, really got my attention. I wrote a play, very bad play. Again, I guess it all sucks. A very bad play about that issue, that concept of alignment in 2015, 2016, something like that. And that did get published. Don't know why. And anyway, control problem. Where did all that come from? I dropped my glasses on the ground. What? Flood. Ba-bam. Lots of information. Lots of memories. Lots of memories about basically my ignorance. our ignorance, the impossibility of completeness, the impossibility of total perfect knowledge. All of these things also, in my view, about insane abundance. As in, like, if there are an infinitude of pathways to traverse, doesn't that also mean that abundance could be a choice? My name's Matt Keene. Thanks for visiting Creating a Future We Want, the Evaluative Evolution series. See you soon in the morning with the okra.